a supernatural entity, a demonic form which is born of the devil. Indeed, the devil is undead, a being which is neither living nor dead. This is the definition of a vampire.
The only certain way of destroying an undead is by driving a wooden stake, like the one I have here, straight through the heart with one blow.
It said to a police officer who's in an old panda car, "You know there's a vampire in there, don't you?" And this police officer looked at him with a dead serious face and said, "Yes, and we'll arrest him too once we find him."
The Highgate vampire, when I first looked upon it in its tomb and had in fact been resting for some century or so. But in fact it looked like, I suppose, a 3-day-old corpse. And vampire I exorcised was indeed a victim of the original source, the Highgate vampire.
One of the vampires turned into a spider in front of you.
Metamorphosis is one of the peculiarities of the true undead, but it was undoubtedly a gigantic spider.
I'm not saying I know the answers to anything, but it's human nature to sort of reach out for something beyond us, look for something beyond what we see around us in the material world.
Hello, my beauties and bees. I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh, what the hell is this? This isn't Bree's regular time to stream. Hello, and welcome to Friday night. I do want to clarify that this is something new I'm doing, so that you aren't like off on your schedule or anything. You're just not used to this time slot that I'm doing here. And what I'm doing today, the 14 Files, is a new series that I've started. This will be the second episode. I sort of retroactively made my Cryptic Cam an episode of it too. My main focus here is I'm focusing on the hunters, on the ghost hunters, the cryptid hunters, the exorcist, the demonologists, the people who claim that they are out there day in and day out fighting supernatural entities to protect us, the weak mortals, the human element of that, the food for these supernatural creatures, so to speak. So that's what this series is about. You're gonna see. This one's about. It isn't the Highgate vampire, but it's really mostly about Farrant and Manchester, which were the two gentlemen that are involved in the Highgate vampire situation. But we're going to be looking at that cryptozoologist like Seth Breedlove. We're also going to be looking at demonologist and exorcist Bob Larson, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And we're not just going to look at ones that are alive today. We're going to look at them all the way back to Charles Fort. So, and Charles Fort is where you get the word 14. He's the one that coined that to kind of be a blanket term for all these different fields of paranormal investigation. Now, I myself am one of these people as well, but I think I might be the only honest one. I don't know, because everybody else seems to find stuff all the time, everywhere they go, having all kinds of luck with getting in contact with the supernatural, paranormal, and I'm going to start doing my CrypticCorner intro there. But they seem to have a lot more luck. Is it luck, or are they just not honest with us about what they're actually finding? But, to be on the safe side, since we are covering vampires today, I did get the garlic parmesan from Wingstop. So, we should be safe from vampires if garlic works. But in The Lost Boys, They said garlic doesn't work, but look, got some nummy wing stop. All right, I'm garliced up. No vampire can get me now. Okay, there's my sauce. All right. All right. So we are protected. Let me chew. We are now protected from vampires by the power of Wingstop. Wingstop was our salvation. Thank you, Wingstop. That could have been killed by vampires. You know what? I should probably take these first. This is my tummy medicine. So I should probably take that first before I eat too much Wingstop, or else that grease is going to make my tummy explode. All right. All right. All right. All right. Without further ado, let's get into the Highgate vampire. Let's get into this whole scenario. I found let's see here. So I found a channel covers this type of topic, right? Pretty regularly with real voices too, which is always a nice change from what they do a lot on these channels. What AI read it all, yeah. But and you can see kind of what kind of what stuff they cover on this channel. You got the silver suited alien humanoids, lots of alien stuff. It looks like the Ripperston farm visitor, interesting. Charles House guest, Phantom Black Hounds, stay off the moors. We visited this channel before. Was this one of the ones that we visited for Spring Hill Jack? No, because there's their Spring Hill Jack coverage. Regardless, we're going to let Eerie Vault teach us about the Highgate vampire. Here's the video we're looking at right here. And we're going to, oh, I'm kind of off-centered, huh? We are going to, it doesn't need to go this way or that way. Kind of weird, but okay. All right, there I go. I'm centered better now. I shuffled things around a little bit before the show started. All right. Let me see. Good luck at your event, Slim Cyborg. Appreciate you. Yeah. I don't got too many people watching yet, but this is the first time I've done this show in this time slot, so I'm not too worried about it. Get people rolling as things move forward. And we're going to kick y'all right into Dr. Ben's trivia night, too, which I don't see any announcement for yet, so that's all right. Anyway, let's do this. All right, so obviously it comes with their disclaimer. Sounds a little far away. Let me see. Properties. Is that picking me up all right? The mic's right here. Is that better? Let me know. Ooh. Okay. Excellent. Was I on the wrong setup on that? It was probably on my webcam mic. So annoying. Stopping by to show some love, then back to the work cave. All right, thank you for your love. We got Gather and YouTube running. Okay. Well, let's get this show on the road. Just some disclaimer stuff if you care. I don't, but if you do. There's some spooky music that I hope is royalty free.
It began.
Kind of sounds like Nightmare Before Christmas, right? Like, something's up with Jack. Listen. Something's up with Jack. Something's up with Jack.
With whisp.
I'm just saying. If you hear it, if you hear the Nightmare Before Christmas, something's up with Jack, let me know. Oh, wow. We just got raided.
A figure seen in the mist. A presence felt in the dark.
Hello, Dr. Kip's audience. Welcome. Welcome to the show. We are covering the folklore of the Highgate vampire, and it's mostly the story of these two goofy guys called Farrant and Manchester. We'll get into those as we move along, because they're powerful wizards.
Highgate Cemetery, long a resting place for London's elite, had become a magnet for something much, much darker.
Ooh.
The newspapers called it a vampire. The locals spoke of glowing red eyes in the shadows. I'm going to take you into the heart of the Highgate vampire saga, but be warned, this journey will take us far beyond the graveyard gate.
But be warned!
It's into a tale of obsession, rivalry, and satanic rituals.
You're not going to mention the wizard duels? Come on. This story comes with wizard duels, you all. Wizards. Ooh. Decay and dereliction.
Highgate Cemetery is no stranger to ghost stories. Built in 1839, its Gothic architecture and sprawling overgrowth have long inspired tales of the supernatural.
I love that, sprawling. Oh. All right, hold on. Do we need to look at Highgate Cemetery? I know we're like a minute and 40 seconds in, and I'm probably gonna get back to this at some point. But so just to keep everybody on the same page. So this is the part of the city that we're in, London, right? And you zoom right on this Kensington Palace Park. Did I lose my place? Of course I did. Is it down here? No, that's some. These are all different places that I've looked at in the past for different topics. So there will be a lot of London is just full of all sorts of 14 phenomena. So you never know where you're going to land. Where did it go? Oh, I can't believe I lost my place so quickly. There it is. Swain Lane. All right, so there we are. And we're going to put a marker on it, add it to the favorites. There we go. Okay. So it's a really cool cemetery. It's a really cool and really old cemetery. You can drop right down into it and just kind of have a look at what kind of layout it has. Look at these old stones, and there's lots of trees. It is really the quintessential old Victorian cemetery in the forest, with all these crazy, wild, winding paths and above-ground tombs. Really a beautiful place. I would love to visit. Would absolutely love to visit this place. I could probably spend hours in here, but I would also need to protect myself from the vampires because they stalk the night in this place. All right. Actually, I'm going to pull this back over here. Okay. All right. There we are.
But by the late 1960s, the cemetery had fallen into neglect. Crypts lay open, their contents disturbed by vandals. Foxes would skulk through the headstones, and the once impressive and imposing cemetery now showed signs of decay and dereliction. It was during this time that the first whispers began. Stories of a figure, tall and dark and menacing, spotted near the cemetery gates and along Swain's Lane. Some dismissed it as a superstition.
Woo! I want to start a super chat contest, Dripping Blood. I love you, Sandy. Thank you so much. Love the goth cowboy vamp vibe. I'm kind of feeling in my vibe a whole lot this hellbilly Barbie kind of look that I've got going on here lately. So I'm glad you like it.
Others felt a hidden evil was near.
Yep, there's the closed caption too. A hidden evil. So it's important, I guess, to point out that like at the start of this folklore, it wasn't really a vampire. It was just some gray, red-eyed figure roaming around the cemetery at night. Was the sightings.
December 1969, and a local woman walking her dog along Swains Lane becomes the first to report something unusual. Her usually energetic and fearless dog freezes, whining and pulling at the lead.
Yeehaw.
The dog is reacting to something unseen. The woman feels it too. An unnatural coldness, an oppressive silence. Then she sees it. An extremely tall...
I want silence when I walk in the cemetery at night. If I didn't want silence, I wouldn't be in the cemetery. I'm just saying.
Figure standing just beyond the cemetery gates. One eyewitness reported that along with a companion, he had concealed himself within one of the cemetery's ancient vaults, determined to uncover the truth behind the strange activity reported there. As they waited in silence, a shadowy figure appeared. It moved swiftly among the catacombs before vanishing into a massive vault. Despite a thorough search...
So, this kind of gives you an idea of the atmosphere. This is like proto-satanic panic, sort of. Hitting the UK, because the occult scene was like, we're talking, late 60s. You got the New Age movement really taking hold. In the Wicca movement specifically, which I did participate in for a little bit, but I did second wave Wicca in the 90s, which was a little bit different, but than the first stage free love Wicca. However, the culture of the time was very into like spiritualism and the supernatural, and also this sort of callback to ancient European, or specifically like fairy lore and stuff from the British Isles. Was making a revival, but that's not where Manchester's getting his inspiration from, though. But we'll get to Manchester in a little bit.
The figure was gone. All that remained was a trail of blood droplets leading to a cluster of colossal coffins large enough to conceal untold horrors.
Colossal
a motorist
coffins?
stranded near one of the cemetery gates when his car broke down reported a terrifying encounter. He described a figure peering at him through the iron gates, its glowing eyes fixed on him and its mouth twisted into a sinister...
I'm going to go out on a limb here and correlate this, because a lot of the sighting is really relating to what I hear with people who saw Mothman or the Owlman of Menway, right? There is this overarching characteristic of large glowing eyes, twisted mouth, and amorphous figure. And I think it's an owl, making a defense posture. But I digress.
Grain, revealing glistening white teeth. The figure then vanished, speeding into the cemetery.
Now owls don't have teeth, so he might have saw a dude.
Recesses faster than anything humanly possible. Not all encounters took place at night. A man referred to only as Mr. Thornton, a 45-year-old accountant, entered the cemetery one summer afternoon, taking a break from his work and looking for some peace and quiet. What he found was incredibly unsettling. He described feeling an unnatural chill as he walked deeper into the cemetery, and gradually he began to realize he was completely and utterly lost. And then, as he turned a corner, he froze. Standing in the path ahead of him was a
Now, when I was first listening to this, the cemeteries around here, in most places in the U.S., they sort of deforest them. So it's nice to see that this cemetery's forest was sort of retained to some extent. And I couldn't grasp, getting lost in it because I'm used to to cemeteries being a flat green expanse, right? But then when I look at these images here, these ancient cemeteries with their winding paths and catacombs and mausoleums, and it's just
shadowy figure, tall, indistinct, but unmistakably there. Its eyes burned red, staring straight into his. Thornton felt his energy drain, as though the figure was feeding on his very being. On a cold winter
psychic
evening in
vampire.
1967, 2 teenage girls were making their way home along Swains Lane, and the street was deserted, the trees casting long, skeletal shadows across the path. But as they approached the north gate of Highgate Cemetery, they stopped in their tracks. They thought they saw someone moving among the graves. At first, it looked like a person.
So, just to be clear about it, people can be moving around in the cemetery and not be ghosts. I think it was Farrant. I think that a lot of what people were seeing was actually Farrant, but we'll get to that too.
Person standing there, but then they saw something rising from the ground. It was slow, like it was being pulled out of a grave. What they described was something neither fully human nor fully physical, a figure that appeared to rise from the earth itself before fading into the mist.
Hell yeah. If I become a vampire, I want to be able to turn into mist. What's the point of being a vampire if you can't turn into mist or into a flutter of bats? What's the point at that point?
Perhaps the most disturbing account came from a young convent schoolgirl who walked along Swains Lane on her way home from class. The girl claimed to have seen the same tall figure described by earlier witnesses, but this time it didn't simply passively watch or float away into nothingness. It was there, just standing by the gate, she said. I tried to walk past it, but it moved towards me. It didn't walk, it floated.
Did I have any weird experiences in the cemetery? Or are you talking to... Because Big Zebra used to work at a cemetery. I used to be a paranormal investigation. I spent a lot of nights in cemeteries. And I did a lot of investigations in cemeteries, and I still, to this day, really can't understand why a ghost would haunt a cemetery. That's just this plot of land that had no connection to them in life. If someone's going to be haunting an area, you think they'd haunt someplace that they lived or someplace that was important to them, like a home or something along those lines.
I felt like I couldn't move, like it was pulling me closer. By the early 1970s, the stories were no longer just whispered in the dark. Families in Highgate began locking their doors earlier. Some even avoided walking near the cemetery altogether. What had started as isolated reports was quickly becoming the talk of the town. For many, it was no longer a question of if something was out there, but how dangerous it might be.
So, as of right now, this channel is really leaning into the early reports being very vampire-like, but I'm going to tell you right now that when you read the articles about this stuff, and I have them here, I don't go into any of this stuff blind. I follow up on all the links and everything. There's a ton of stuff here, but early reports did not describe this thing as vampire-like. They described it as more like a ghostly phantom kind of thing. Vampire. That's like the Germanic pronunciation, or Slavic, maybe? Vampire. Yeah, I think that's like Eastern European.
The figure seen in Highgate Cemetery was not immediately called a vampire. Early reports simply described a tall, shadowy entity with glowing red eyes. But as whispers spread through the community...
Which could be me if my eyes were red. But they're green. I should get some red eyes.
The term vampire began to take hold. Why? Maybe it was the figure's supernatural traits, those glowing red eyes, its uncanny height, and its aggressive, almost predatory nature. By the late 1960s and early 70s,
It doesn't sound very aggressive if nobody's even like getting a clear sight of it, because how can it be aggressive if it's like people are just seeing it in the distance and it's usually like running away and thing? I don't know, but we'll see. We're building folklore here.
vampires were everywhere, not just in dark crypts, but on the silver screen. The Hammer horror series had revitalized the gothic vampire myth for a new generation with films like
Christopher Lee rocks. Christopher Lee, woo! Dracula, Saruman, Count Dooku. Yeah, that's the guy. That's our guy.
like Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and Taste the Blood of Dracula dominating British cinemas. Audiences were enthralled by the imagery of bloodthirsty, nocturnal predators stalking through graveyards. And
it's so important to understand how much influence Dracula specifically had on the Highgate vampire. Like, they're basically the same guy.
Shadowy estates. So it's not hard to imagine how this cinematic resurgence influenced local perceptions of Highgate's mysterious figure. The timing was uncanny. Real-life reports of an otherworldly entity coinciding with the height of vampire mania in pop culture.
Key players. All right, here we go. Now we're finally going to get into Manchester and Farrant. Hopefully we start with Farrant.
The story of the Highgate vampire isn't just about a sinister figure haunting a cemetery. It's also about the people who became entangled in its legend. At the centre of this tale are two men, David Farrant and Sean Manchester. Their rivalry would become as infamous as the entity itself. David Farrant, a psychic investigator and, as the press continually referred to him as, self-styled president of the British Psychic and Occult Society. He was among the first to bring attention to the strange occurrences at...
Farrant was the one, he's the Wiccan one. He was the one that was like into the kind of the New Age scene, where Manchester's into this, what he calls the Old Catholic Church, which is like his own branch of the Catholic Church that he's a bishop of. But we'll have a lot more to say about Manchester as we go along. He's quite a figure.
Highgate Cemetery. In early 1970, Farrant wrote a letter to the Hampstead and Highgate Express describing his own sighting of a tall, spectral figure. He was convinced that the entity was supernatural, but did not refer to it as a vampire. Farrant's investigations quickly gained traction, drawing public interest and, inevitably, the press. But Farrant wasn't alone in his quest to uncover the truth behind the sightings. Enter Sean Manchester, a self-proclaimed...
And this guy's still around, too. Sean Manchester's still around, so he's probably actually going to show up in my comments section below this. He tends to do that. He tends to pop in anytime anybody's talking about this and put in his 2 cents, but... we're going to nip that in the bud later in the show when we crack open a little bit more information about Mr. Manchester.
Claimed vampire hunter and bishop of the Old Catholic Church. Manchester publicly declared that the entity haunting Highgate Cemetery wasn't just a ghost. It was a full-fledged vampire. His theory drew from folklore, claiming that the figure was actually an undead Wallachian nobleman brought to England in the 18th century.
Does that story plot sound familiar? Does Sean Manchester's version of events sound familiar to you? Does it sound a little bit Bram Stoker-ish? A Wallachian nobleman brought to England in the 18th century? Was he brought there by Jonathan Harker? I mean, did Renfield help him pick his plot?
These two men couldn't have been more different. Farrant approached the mystery with a focus on psychic phenomena, while Manchester leaned into the theatrics of vampire lore, and yet their paths crossed repeatedly as the Highgate saga unfolded. And then came the media.
Yeah. The media circus.
Local and national newspapers latched onto the story, framing it as a vampire haunting Highgate Cemetery.
And to be clear, the Manchester almost exclusively is responsible for characterizing this entity as a vampire. Well, I shouldn't say almost, because there were animal corpses found around the cemetery that allegedly had their blood drained and things like that. But yeah. Oh no, puns. Yeah, Prince of Darkness.
Reports became more dramatic with each retelling, stoking public curiosity. And
let's see, libel case, high priest tells of sex ritual. Hell yeah. Witch accused of body snatch. I was a voodoo victim, says rock singer. What's going on? What's going on? The fucking British people in the 60s, right? London in the 60s.
Fear. Suddenly the Highgate vampire wasn't just a shadow in the dark. It was a headline. It was a sensation. The label of...
What do we got now? We got more. 100 in London vampire hunt. Halloween rite in churchyard. Naked girl in white. Magic at cemetery. Hell yeah, I want to be the naked girl. Can I be the naked girl?
Vampire was as much a product of the media and the era it was in as it was of the sighting themselves. But while some embraced the idea of the vampire stalking Highgate's tombs, others had their doubts.
I would have been there. You know I would have. If I'd been in London at this time, I'd have been all over that shit.
Was this truly a creature of the night? Or something altogether?
You say creature of the night, I start wanting to sing freaking Rocky Horror Picture Show. Is it just me? Anybody else have that problem? Creature of the night.
Different. As public fascination grew, so too did the claims, each one more extraordinary than the last.
Legends of blood-sucking vampires have haunted our imaginations for centuries. But some people in London claim that the vampire that's haunting them is not imaginary.
Highgate Cemetery here in North London is famous for being the burial place for Karl Marx.
Some old news. Karl Marx.
But more recently, it has become notorious for being the scene of a number...
Hell yeah, if I go to Highgate Cemetery, I'm going to go to Marx's grave, too. That'd be awesome. Because I'm a commie bitch. Oh, what ugly, nasty commie bitch. Oh!
...of grisly discoveries and strange sightings.
In the winter of 1969, a number of apparitions were reported in Swains Lane, mostly in letters to local newspapers. A particular occasion on which the police discovered an exhumed body.
Yeah, so there was like a dead body involved with this. Let's not downplay that this was like some serious shit that was going down. There was a corpse involved.
Skeleton.
But they were exhuming. As I said at the beginning, the cemetery is huge and it was in disrepair. You had tombs hanging open, graves open, things like that. So to access a corpse probably wouldn't have been extremely hard if you could get it past the 10-foot wall of the Highgate.
Without its skull.
Well,
have you ever seen this vampire? I have seen it, yes. I saw it last February and I saw it on 2 occasions. What was it like? It took the form of a tall, grey figure and it...
I'm pretty sure that's David Farrant, but it's so blurry I can't tell. It sounds like David Farrant.
About 8 feet tall, and it seemed to glide off the path without making any noise.
Nearly 100 people joined in a vampire hunt at Highgate Cemetery in North London early.
I would have been all over that shit. If we had a vampire hunt at the cemetery here, I'd be like, somebody come get me. I need a ride to the vampire hunt.
Today, they included vampire expert Mr. Alan Blood, who travelled 40 miles to probe the legend of an undead Satan-like being said to lurk in the area. Spectators gathered in the darkness after watching a television interview last night in which a man said he was going to exorcise an evil spirit he claimed he had seen 3 times. It took more
That's David Farrant.
than 40 policemen to control the crowds. Curious onlookers scaled the 10-foot wall in search of an open tomb.
That would have been me. Absolutely, that would have been me. I'd have been climbing that wall. Where's my vampire? Come get me. Come give me your... It's right here. You do it right here. Bring it on.
Several scrambled back frightened and claimed they had seen something crawling in the dark. The vampire expert, history teacher Alan Blood, travelled from Chelmsford, Essex, after he saw Mr. David Farrant on BBC television speak of his plans to stake the vampire through the heart with a wooden cross.
Alan
Mr. Blood said, I met Mr. Farrant and we talked.
That's a killer name, Alan Blood. Come on, that's a cool name. Farrant and Manchester get all this publicity, and there's actually a vampire hunter named Alan Blood, our vampire expert named Alan Blood, that was involved with this. And there was a psychic named Lucian too, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Talked about his plans, but really this whole thing is timed wrongly. There were too many people around, which would disturb any undead spirit in the cemetery. Whatever is there must be Satan-like in character. Armed with a wooden stake and a crucifix, Alan...
Yeah, because you have, again, this is the 60s. Well, this is getting into the 70s, but, this is the winter of 69. Yeah, there was a culture clash going on in London between the New Agers and the old. When I say the old Catholic Church, I mean the real old Catholic Church, or the Church of England is probably who was causing more issues in this situation.
Farrant prowled among the tombstones of a graveyard.
Oh, I gave a false name deliberately.
He was hunting the vampire of the Highgate Cemetery, and 24-year-old Farrant told a courtier today, "My intention was to search out the supernatural being and destroy it by plunging the stake in its heart." Farrant pleaded guilty at Clerkenwell, London, to entering St Michael's Churchyard Highgate Cemetery for unlawful purposes. Farrant told police that he had just moved to London when he heard about people talking about the vampire of Highgate Cemetery. In a statement, he had said that he had heard the vampire rises out of the grave and wanders about the cemetery on the lookout for human beings on whose blood it
There were just so many characters involved in this, but yeah, Manchester and Farrant are the main cast, but we got Blood and you got Farrant, so there's a few different players that are out to slay this vampire in Highgate.
Thrives. Police, keeping watch for followers of a black magic cult, arrested him. He was remanded in custody for reports. Last night, a Mr. Sean Manchester, leader of the British Occult Society, said, "I am convinced that a vampire exists in Highgate Cemetery. Local residents and passers-by have reported seeing ghost-like figures of massive proportions near the North Gate."
While I'm forever explaining this, I am not a vampire hunter. About 5 of us went to Highgate Cemetery with the intention of performing a psychic seance with the entity. We had implements with us, small crosses, small.
Farrant, as I said, he's like the kind of a Wiccan guy, right? So he thinks that this entity is like not a physical entity. He thinks it's like a psychic being, like a incorporeal figure. Whereas Manchester thinks it's like Dracula, like a physical vampire. But
an incense. I had a
we'll
stake.
Get to that.
Attached to the stake was a piece of long cord. The idea of that was to try and cast a magical circle on the ground. Inspector in charge of the case, he made a deal with me. He said, "Look, if you just plead guilty in the morning at Clerkenwell Court, just plead guilty. The case will be over without any publicity, and that'll be the end of it." And this same police officer then said to the court, I'd said to him, "You wouldn't understand. My intention was to seek out and stake the Highgate vampire." Because I pleaded guilty to it, all this was being believed.
A man who went on midnight expeditions to kill a vampire at Highgate Cemetery, London, was found not guilty yesterday of breaking the law by being in an enclosed area. Alan David Farrant, unemployed of North Hill, Highgate, appeared at Clerkenwell where he pleaded not guilty to the charge. Mr. Geoffrey Bayes, defending, argued that the cemetery was not an enclosed area in the strict legal sense, and it was not unlawful for a person to search for a vampire.
So it's legal to hunt vampires in London in the 70s. Like, you can't get arrested for it. So that's pretty awesome.
Alan David Farrant, 24, of North Hill, Highgate, appeared at Clerkenwell, London, where he pleaded not guilty to being in an enclosed area at Highgate Cemetery. And after the hearing, he said he intended to continue his investigations and to carry on trying to warn people that followers of the black magic cult were performing evil ceremonies at the cemetery.
Do you know what time they meet? Like, in what area? Because the cemetery is huge. I'm going to have a hell of a time finding them without instructions. So if you could direct me to the black magic people in the cemetery, I'd much appreciate it, Mr. Farrant. Thank you.
Mr. Bays added, it's akin to people spending fortunes looking for the Loch Ness Monster or some other supposed creature.
Just to explain,
here's Manchester. And Manchester's such a character. He claims he's a descendant from Lord Byron here.
Tonight is not just a sort of modish affectation. You are indeed a direct descendant of Lord Byron, aren't you?
Well, yes, for whatever relevance that has.
Yeah, but there is a sort of... it does have a relevance in that you believe, do you not, that Lady Caroline Lamb, Lord Byron's lover, is a...
And I have to be clear here that his claim to being relative of Lord Byron is that, or descendant of Lord Byron, is that Lord Byron had an illegitimate daughter named Lucy, and that he has an ancestor named Lucille. That's literally his claim to his connection with Lord Byron here. Just letting you know, because, yeah.
A vampire.
Oh, I don't know that she is. I've been keeping an eye on her for some time, mind you. But she's semi-suspect, put it that way.
Police who interrupted a witchcraft ceremony in a derelict London house found 2 men prancing naked around a fire, it was said in court today. It was alleged that the men were David Farrant, age 33 of Highgate, self-styled leading British white witch and president of the British Occult Society, and a Mr. John Pope, age 21, of Barnet. Both were accused at Highgate Magistrates Court of arson. Reporting restrictions were lifted. Detective Sergeant John...
Because they had like a ritual fire going on inside one of these tombs. Like you saw, were we able to see inside the tombs? Let me see. I just have the map up here. Just a second. Let me see if I can get a good... Because some of these places are really cool looking. Yeah, here we go. So, like, if you look, like, there's these long corridors with tombs on either side, like family vaults. On both sides. So, these, and like I was saying at the beginning, in the 60s and stuff, these weren't being maintained all that well. So a lot of these doors were open or busted in or rotted through, so you could go in and out. I imagine there was a lot of stuff going on in here, including a lot of scavenging of bones and stuff from just anybody. Like, oh, I want a skull. You go in there and get a skull. You go in there and get a bone. People are weird. I would have a human skull if I could.
Glover read a statement made by the officer in charge of the raid. He said police went to the derelict house after receiving a telephone call. This derelict house, by the way, is one in Crouch End, which you'll hear about a little bit later in this video.
Crouch End? Sounds like some Harry Potter shit right there. It's like a mix of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Like a mix between Barty Crouch and Bag Ends. Crouch End.
They searched all the rooms of the 3...
I would love to have a skull. I like all kinds of skulls, though. I like, I used to have a cow skull and a cat skull and a fox skull. So I've had skulls in the past. I just don't have any now. Yeah, you tend to lose things along the way. I like taxidermy. Taxidermy is a passion of mine. Most of my followers know that. I used to do a lot of bug taxidermy. There's actually still bug taxidermy videos on my channel for me preserving stuff. Bo got me a taxidermy kit. It's right back there on my shelf.
3-story building and found the 2 men both naked, performing some sort of witchcraft ceremony. In the room, a wood fire was burning on a piece of metal foil, flames reaching 2 feet into the air. The fire was so hot, police couldn't stamp it out. They had to use a fire extinguisher. Farrant said he admitted lighting the fire because it was cold. Pope said, we can't have done very much damage. Mr. Michael Bunting, defending, said, my only submission relates to the tin foil. It shows the defendant intended to protect the house from the fire, so they were not reckless.
For real, there was some step there made to prevent arson. So maybe a trespassing charge, and maybe a vandalism charge instead of an arson charge. Just thinking out loud if I was like prosecuting this.
Both men, who reserved their defence, were committed on £30 bail to the Old Bailey. A man who calls himself the High Priest of Witchcraft will appear before Clerkenwell magistrates in London tomorrow, accused of body snatching and carrying a gun.
As ironic as this sounds, I'm Team David Farrant, honestly. And I know he's a body snatching, naked guy, setting fires in houses and stuff. But when I get to Manchester, you're going to understand why.
David Farrant, 28, of Archway Road, Highgate, London, is accused of taking the body from Highgate Cemetery in January. Desecration of tombs at Highgate Cemetery is still going on, an Old Bailey judge heard yesterday. He said he had seen for himself a mutilated corpse in a damaged coffin at the cemetery this week. Judge Michael Argyle, QC, told of this horrible interference just before he jailed for a total of 4 years and 8 months one David Robert Farrant, aged 28, self-styled president and high priest of the British...
So, I mean, you get Farrant was like... I mean, he was in the field. He was, and this is, and I'm not gonna. Maybe the reason I have a soft spot for him is because this is the shit I used to do when I was in my early or late teens and early 20s. I would go into old haunted houses without that Manchester. Do you know Sean Manchester? Because we're gonna get into that. Some of the we'll get into it, but. What Farrant's doing here, as far as going into the cemeteries, the old creepy cemeteries at night, and doing witchy rituals, and going into old abandoned haunted houses and doing rituals and wicked stuff and all that. I used to do that. I mean, I was never caught and never charged, but I did it. You know, I'm not bragging about it. I was a paranormal investigator. That's what we thought we were supposed to be doing. Trying to find the truth. But
Occult Society, who was convicted last month in the nude rituals trial. Farrant of Archway Road, Islington, had been convicted in 3 trials by different juries and remanded for sentencing until yesterday, pending medical reports. He had been convicted of interfering with a memorial to the dead and damaging a place of interment at Highgate Cemetery. In another trial, he was convicted of interfering with witnesses to a criminal trial by sending them voodoo dolls with pins through the mouth and chest to dissuade them from giving evidence. In a third trial, he was convicted of stealing blankets and bed linen from Barnet General Hospital. He had pleaded guilty to possessing a revolver and 1 round of ammunition. Passing sentence.
What does the bed linen thing have to do with anything, right? How is that related to any of the rest of this? The rest of this shit's pretty lit. Sending voodoo dolls to the police for messing with your friends. That's wild.
As the judge said of the interference with the memorial to the dead, the offences involved great offence to ordinary people. You claimed throughout that you were being persecuted, but I think that the evidence emerged that the boot was on the other foot. You proceeded quite regardless of the feelings of the ordinary people. A High Court hearing involving accounts of midnight witchcraft rites, cat sacrifice, voodoo dolls with pins...
There were a lot of animal sacrifices in that cemetery, too. I've looked at the reports and stuff on that when I was researching for this.
Stuck in them, and ritualistic sex proved too much for a woman juror yesterday. Mr. Justice Cantley...
That's why I was looking for where they're doing the black magic at. I need some ritualistic sex.
Excused her from the remainder of the trial after she became unwell, as the former general foreman of Highgate Cemetery, Mr. William Law, told of vaults being broken into and coffins...
Maybe it was an enchanted bullet, like the Beast de Gévaudan. He only had that one silver bullet. Killed that beast. But, did he really? I mean, we don't know. It was a blessed bullet. Yeah. 1 round of ammunition, which is more than you're allowed to have in the UK, so...
Remains being disturbed. It was the 3rd day of the hearing in which the occultist David Farrant claims he was libelled by the Daily Express. Rock singer Long John Baldry told a High Court libel case jury yesterday how he became a target for witchcraft. He described how he received 2 voodoo dolls of himself in miniature coffins. Mr. Baldry was giving evidence for the Daily Express in its defence. to a damages action brought by occultist David Farrant. Mr. Farrant, president of the British Occult Society, claims he was libelled. In a newspaper article which appeared in the newspaper following his conviction at the Old Bailey in 74 on charges of interfering with a memorial at Highgate Cemetery, London, and breaking into catacombs and interfering with the remains of a body. Mr. Baldry, who was quoted in one of the articles, said he became caught up in witchcraft after hearing about the sacrifices of a tabby cat which he thought was one of his pets. His public outburst of...
Did Farrant sacrifice cats? I hope not. I hope it's just slander, but...
...over this killing led him to receiving the 2 voodoo dolls, each with a photograph of himself attached to the head, and each punctured by pins and nails. He also received a warning written in Chaucerian English that he was interfering with a witch's coven. Mr. Baldry said that Graham Bond, a pianist and saxophonist, carried out an exorcism...
Saxophonist? I always thought it was saxophonist. Saxophonist? That sounds fancy.
...ceremony to destroy the dolls and get rid of any evil spirits or bad forces.
I became a perfect target for the popular press. I became a kind of story one could read in bed on a Sunday morning.
Vampires. Now, Sean Manchester, the Reverend Sean Manchester.
The Reverend Sean Manchester. Bishop Sean Manchester.
Welcome to Into the Night. But you've seen vampires.
Oh, yes. I'm talking about a supernatural entity, a demonic form which is born of the devil. Indeed, the devil is undead.
What did the Highgate vampire involve and look like?
Well, the Highgate vampire, when I first looked upon it in its tomb in the Lebanon Circle in the center of the old Highgate Cemetery, looked like...
So, let's see, Lebanon Circle is... I believe it's the circle right here. The Egyptian Avenue pops off of. But you walk around all these mausoleums, all these crypts. Mausoleums, I don't know if they're crypts or mausoleums, but I think the difference is one of them's underground. But yeah, so that's where he's saying he saw it first.
I suppose a 3-day-old corpse.
What made you think it was a vampire and not just a 3-day-old corpse?
Because it could leave its tomb without displacing anything. It could manifest.
Did you see it doing that?
It was witnessed by many residents, passers-by, by many people in the general area.
To cut a long story short, you dispatched this to eternal peace.
It relocated to a neo-Gothic derelict mansion in the same area. And I used the ancient and approved method to release the demon.
Did you put a stake through its heart as well?
Yes, to be on the safe side.
The man caught lurking amongst the
You gotta put a stake through its heart, and then you gotta decapitate it, and it'll turn to dust, I guess.
graves was David Farrant. He's always maintained his innocence and that the grave desecration was done by loonies attracted by the publicity in the original case. He doesn't believe in vampires in the Hammer horror sense. He believes they are evil, ghostly entities. His rival is the Reverend Sean Manchester, a self-professed bishop of the Old Catholic Church, who claims to be a true vampire hunter who killed the Highgate vampire with a stake through the heart.
In 1973,
Manchester has offered to exorcise him and regularly challenges him to an occult duel.
For decades, the rivalry persisted. Each man published books defending...
Because one guy's like, oh yeah, but when I continue a psychic research and get my organization publicity in the cemetery for the British Psychical and Occult Research or whatever with Farrant, and then Manchester's like, no, I want credit for slaying the vampire because I killed it. I staked it in 1973 and it's gone.
His version of events, Manchester insisted that he had slain the vampire in 73, driving a stake through its heart. Farrant countered this by saying that no such creature actually ever existed. Rather, it was a psychic entity. To this day, the Highgate vampire story is as much about these figures as it is about the alleged entity itself. Their feud became the stuff of legend, ensuring that the mystery of Highgate Cemetery would never truly rest in peace.
The entity.
But what might this entity have been? A ghost? A demon? A figment of overactive imagination fueled by folklore? Or something else entirely? To truly grapple with this mystery, we've got to try and put aside the concept of vampire and try to look at this a little bit differently. Some have suggested that the figure seen at Highgate Cemetery was not a conscious being, but a residual haunting, a psychic imprint left by centuries of grief and death. The cemetery with its long
like
history...
replay haunting is what they generally would call that. Sabina Hassenfelder responded to my comment. Senpai noticed me. Well, congratulations.
Of tragic tales might act as a kind of sponge that soaks up this type of emotional energy. Perhaps the Highgate entity is a guardian, being bound to protect the cemetery from desecration. Such entities appear in folklore worldwide.
Black dogs do that. Gargoyles will do that to buildings and stuff like that, yeah.
Described as menacing figures that ward off intruders. But why then would this one appear so sinister? Maybe
to ward off intruders.
Its purpose twisted by years of black magic rituals taking place there. Some accounts describe the entity as malevolent, a predator, feeding on the energy of the living. Could it have been a demon summoned by occult practices and bound to the cemetery? Or perhaps an elemental spirit tied to the land itself, awakened or enraged by the disturbances of those modern times? Several witnesses reported feeling drained, physically and emotionally, after encountering this thing.
Ooh.
This has...
Drain me, Mr. Vampire. Drain me, Mr. Vampire, please.
Led to speculation that the Highgate figure was an energy vampire, not a blood-drinking monster from the movies, but a being that feeds on life force. Could it have been a product of the human mind? In a time when vampire films dominated cinema and supernatural stories were filling the tabloids, belief itself might have given rise to the entity. A thought form, born from fear and fascination, taking on a life of its own.
Like a tulpa.
David Farrant did delve into the concept of tulpas, or thought forms, as part of his broader investigation into the paranormal and the Highgate entity. His interest in the topic reflected a deeper, theoretical exploration of how human consciousness and belief might manifest phenomena in the physical world. As the saga spiraled further into the bizarre, its dark tendrils seemed to reach beyond the cemetery. Among the most chilling accounts is the connection to Crouch End, a quiet neighbourhood with its own share of strange and shadowy stories. It was here, in a house whispered to be known as the House of Dracula, that the Highgate entity was said to have met its end. According to accounts, Sean Manchester tracked the vampire to this very location. Armed with a wooden stake and holy water, he confronted the entity in its lair. The story tells of a fierce struggle, culminating in the destruction of the vampire. Manchester reportedly drove a stake through its heart, banishing the creature once and for all. Some say
he defeated the Highgate vampire in a battle at Crouch End. So having David Farrant saying, hey, people are still seeing this thing and I want to research it and get like psychic. And again, David, I'm not trying to stand for Farrant or anything like that. He, he's just some kooky shit. But I think when it comes to this vampire, I think his investigation was much more honest. I think Manchester's a grifter.
The entity disintegrated into ash. Others claim it burst into flames and dissolved into a sinister, unearthly mist.
I did not impale a vampire in Highgate Cemetery. I impaled it when it relocated to unconsecrated ground.
I wanted to be absolutely certain that the Highgate vampire wouldn't rise again.
And did it?
Having missed the opportunity once when I viewed it in its tomb.
Did it rise again?
Not after the exorcism at the Gothic mansion.
What happened after cremation? Did it sort of dissolve into some strange miasma, or...?
Yes. it very quickly fell into the condition that it ought by right be, which is dust.
In front of your very eyes?
Yes.
Very Van Helsing of you, sir, to dust this vampire.
What remained was consumed in flames.
Whilst Highgate Cemetery remained the epicentre of the saga, this dramatic chapter in Crouch End added a final theatrical flourish to the tale. Was this the true end of the Highgate vampire, or merely another twist in an already tangled web of supernatural lore?
That's all, folks. That's just about the vampire itself, though. There's more video here, and I got more shit to do after this
you've
anyway.
heard the key points of the Highgate vampire saga. The chilling sightings, the tales of dark rituals, the fierce rivalry between Sean Manchester and David Farrant. But what makes this story truly fascinating isn't just the entity itself, it's the sheer volume of perspectives and twists and, let's face it, the larger-than-life personalities that surround it. If you've found yourself drawn into this tale, you're not alone. The Highgate vampire has inspired countless books, articles, and even documentaries. David Farrant chronicled his experiences in books which were as much a window into his mind as they are into the events at Highgate. Sean Manchester's works, including The Highgate Vampire, offer a strikingly different perspective, equally compelling, if not a little more theatrical. Beyond that, there are forums, fan sites, Wikipedia pages dedicated to unravelling, or perhaps deepening, the mystery, each source adding a new layer to the story, but also raising more questions. Who's telling the truth here? Where do fact and fiction
Neither of them are telling the truth.
blur? And what exactly is lurking in the shadows of Highgate Cemetery? So if this story's captured your imagination, don't stop here. Follow the trail, read the books, visit the websites, and immerse yourself in the chaos of the conflicting accounts. Whether you believe the Highgate vampire was a supernatural menace, a thought form, or just a case of media hysteria, one thing's for certain, it's a story that refuses to stay dead and buried. As I close my own chapter on the Highgate vampire, I can't help but reflect on the peculiar world it inhabits. This isn't just a story about a supernatural entity. It's a tale about people, their beliefs, rivalries, and their unrelenting drive to uncover the
Rival occultists, so weird.
unknown. It's a world I'm familiar with. Once upon a time, I found myself in the company of those who claim to possess psychic powers, chasing mysteries and testing the boundaries of reality. And if there's one thing I can
Same, bro. Same.
tell you from that, it's this. The paranormal draws people like moths to a flame. Some are genuine seekers of the truth, but many, well, let's just say that they are as curious as the phenomena they investigate. Highgate's story is no exception. It's populated with characters larger than life, each bringing their own eccentricities and sometimes...
Yeah, but again, we have the main players, Farrant and Manchester, and then Alan Blood and Pharaoh. So yeah, there's a lot of key players in this, but it gets wackier. We're gonna crack open some stuff after this video is over.
Times their own agendas to the table. In April of 2019,
Hail Hive and hail Long John Baldry. I'll drink to that.
David Farrant passed away. He left behind a legacy that was as polarizing as it was fascinating. To some, he was a genuine investigator of the unknown, a man willing to confront what others feared. To others, he was a provocateur, a self-made mystic navigating a dark world of shadows. But whatever their opinions of him might be, his passion for exploring life's mysteries was undeniable. So if you find yourself compelled to explore this rabbit hole, let me offer a word of warning here. Keep your feet firmly on the ground. The world of the supernatural can be intoxicating. It promises answers to the unanswerable questions. It promises connections to the unseen. But it has a way of pulling you in deeper than you might expect. By all means, stay curious.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't I don't believe in most supernatural things. Generally, I don't believe in anything that's not evidence-based. But it does pull you in. It pulls me in. I'm still talking about it. I've been fairly atheistic to all these supernatural claims for at least 10 years now. It's been a good deal of my time doing paranormal investigations and stuff. So I can confirm that it does have a way of pulling us in. But just to reiterate, that was Erie's Vault, right? Covering the Highgate vampire. But we're not done. We've got a few things to unpack here. So, yeah, here's the famous picture of them together. Early on, they kind of worked hand in hand. March 1970. But that fell apart pretty quick. All right, so the Highgate Vampire Wikipedia article is pretty tiny. There's not much to it. But there is a lot of resources. But the individuals both have their own online presence. Sean Manchester is on YouTube. Sean Manchester 5776, and he's still putting out content. He has videos coming up just within the last month. He's also on social media. He's on like Twitter, and he's on, I don't know if he's on Facebook or not, because I couldn't investigate on Facebook for any of this stuff or anything meta driven, because I've been removed from Meta because I violated something allegedly. But yeah, I'm part of that big group of people who were booted off of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads without any kind of explanation as to why on the 25th. There were thousands of us. So I was not able to further investigate anything using those resources. So I did what I could with the available resources. So he mostly does like art stuff these days. He's pretty old, right? Now, while Wikipedia doesn't give us too much to work with when it comes to the Highgate Vampire, Rational Wiki gives us all sorts of details about Sean Manchester. Sean Manchester is a British author and self-proclaimed exorcist, best known for his book Highgate Vampire, which was written subsequent to vampire sightings in London, England during the 1970s. Manchester claims to be a skilled vampire hunter and holds the title of Bishop of the Old Catholic Church. And it kind of recaps the whole situation with the Highgate Vampire. Manchester's knowledge of vampirism may be inspired by horror novels and old vampire movies. His account of the Highgate Vampire has so many parallels to Dracula that Bram Stoker's estate could probably sue if it wasn't in the public domain. This is a perhaps surprising situation, as most people who believe in vampires generally follow the folklore rather than universal monster movies. Nevertheless, he is also president and founder of the Vampire Research Society. The supernatural vampire of folklore, as defined in dictionaries, encyclopedias, and nonfiction works, is a matter of the Society's research and pursuit. All right, we got some claims here. In the book, The Highgate Vampire, Manchester claims that he personally tracked a vampire to its lair, where he witnessed it transform into a giant spider. Why a spider? Why would a mammal corpse turn into an arachnid corpse? Why would a deuterostome become a protostome in the afterlife? Beats me. And let's see, which he bravely killed by pounding a stake through its heart and setting it afire with gasoline. That was at that Bag End place. Crouch Inn, not Bag End. Bag End is where Bilbo Baggins lives from The Hobbit. Manchester claims to hold the title of Bishop of the Old Catholic Church. But not just any bishop. He's a vampire hunting, demon exorcising bishop. Whether or not he's a real bishop in a real church isn't so clear. The church is just like him and his wife and a couple of friends. In his book entitled From Satan to Christ, he claims to have infiltrated a loathsome cult of demon-worshipping Satanists, exposing their evil practice to the world via sensational photographic evidence, and rescued an innocent young woman who looks a lot like his present-day wife from their clutches. Yeah, here's the part about him claiming to be a descendant from Lord Byron. Manchester makes the dubious claim that he's a direct descendant of the poet Lord Byron, based on unidentified records of birth and death showing that Byron had a child named Lucy, while Manchester has an ancestor named Lucille. Obviously, anybody, if you have an ancestor named Lucy, you are related to Byron too. We give you that. That's a freebie on me. You're welcome. It's upsetting because I went to school in Manchester. Not Manchester. It's his last name. I mean, I don't know if he just popped in, but yeah, it's this guy's last name. Sean Manchester. Otherwise, if you're making a joke. So, yeah. All right, so we got the feud with Farrant. And these guys both got super childish about that. The Highgate saga presents the collision of two strange and contradictory accounts of the supernatural, with both parties attacking each other. Manchester and Farrant each claim to tell the real story of the Highgate vampire and essentially accuse each other of being frauds. This may stem from the fact that Manchester claims the title bishop and Farrant claims the title occultist or high priest in Wicca. Or it may be simply a deep personal conflict between two highly competitive personalities. When Manchester founded his British Occult Society, Farrant launched his own British Psychic and Occult Society. When Manchester published The Highgate Vampire, Farrant countered with his Beyond the Highgate Vampire. In the late 1970s, Manchester publicly challenged Farrant to a series of duels, like Harry Potter style, some with swords and some with magic. They were advertised around London. These apparently occurred before Manchester took up the title of bishop. Today, Manchester maintains numerous blogs devoted to vilifying Farrant and calling him an interloper suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. There are often illustrated or photoshopped images and oil paintings that depict Farrant as a demon. In return, Farrant is involved in the distribution of a series of comic books called The Adventures of Bishop Bonkers, as well as a line of Bishop Bonkers merchandise, such as t-shirts, drinking glasses, and mugs. Yeah, and he gets into it with everybody. As you see, feud with pretty much everyone. On being a bishop, Manchester claims to be a Catholic bishop in an interview with BBC. I'm not a vicar, I'm not a priest, I'm a bishop, I'm Catholic. However, Manchester is not a bishop of the Roman Catholic Church, as one might expect when reference to being Catholic. Manchester's claim, not being a member, but the UK primate of the British Old Catholic Church. Okay, and then, let's see. So he does a lot of libel complaints against the media and does a lot of nonsense on the internet with alt accounts. That's what I was talking about. He may come at me because he came with the people who wrote this Rationale Wiki article. So he may pop up in my comments complaining about the way I framed things, but we'll see. This is what I wanted to get to before I move on to Farrant. The Nazi Room. In 2012, a man named Kevin Keshman published photos of a room in Manchester's home, which he described as a amassed amount of Nazi paraphernalia. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I went to Cheshman's blog about it. Autobiography. And he tells the story of his friendship with Sean that started as lifeguards when they were young men. And Sean was a great coach, but a hard taskmaster. If I was not training hard enough, he used to shout, "Schnell, schnell, dumm Kopfen English, eggs and bacon Englishmen." And when he really got angry, "You will be shot at dawn," in a German accent. At the time, I thought it was just his strange sense of humor, although I did find it somewhat disturbing. And it was certainly embarrassing, as he often shouted this sort of thing in public. Alarm bells continued to ring, although not as loudly as they should have done, when Sean was sacked yet again, this time from the Finchley swimming pool in 1977, where we were both working as lifeguards. A front page story on the Sunday People headlined, "We exposed the phony Nazi," accompanied by a picture of Sean dressed up in a Gestapo uniform and claiming to be the commander, the leader of a militant neo-Nazi cell operating out of Borehamwood. This brought a swift end to his future employment at the pool. It gets deeper, though. It gets very, very, very deep. And let's see. By now, Sean's exhibitionist behavior had taken a new twist, and it fast-tracked himself from layperson via priest to bishop of an obscure offshoot of the old Catholic Church, which, as I understand, is itself only a distant cousin of the authentic Catholic Church based in Rome. In fact, Sean's church only seems to consist of himself, his wife, and no more than 3 or 4 friends, including myself, apparently, who he began referring to inexplicably as was a Bishop Kevin, I guess is what BR stands for. I don't know. There were no priests, no congregation, and there was no church building. I certainly have never heard Sean refer to having more than one property, having since learned that his only home is supposedly some form of retreat for survivors of satanic abuse. It is just a suburban house like any other, although I must admit he does have a lot of statues. Again, as in the past, I put this down to eccentricity and humored the whole situation as not to cause any direct offense. Yeah, somebody booped the like button. Boop. All right. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, or if I was meant to be taking this seriously, but Sean was dressed up in ecclesiastical robes and insisted on being photographed at various locations around the Abbey ruins. It was a summer's day, and I remember thinking he must be getting very hot. He was certainly irritable, and I remember him saying that he could not wait to get out of this place. He despised Glastonbury and considered it to be overrun with quasi-religious fakes. The irony was lost on me at that time, but it's not now. His only concern was to get the photo taken for the record and get back to Bournemouth as soon as possible. In fact, he ruined what could have been a pleasant day out. Here goes about his ranting and raging about David Farrant, but I really want to get... And he actually tried to elicit this guy to attack David Farrant, too. But I want to get down to this section here. Yeah. So, if there's any doubt that Sean Manchester is a flippin' Nazi, this is his Nazi room. You got some Third Reich stuff going on there. Let's see, you got It's an Iron Cross. Lots of Nazi memorabilia. Look at this. So, make no mistake. Yeah, my unfinished journey. I was booted from Instagram and Threads, but not Facebook. Too bad to hear you've got the axe there. My stuff is still there. It's just not, I can't access it. Like I still get notifications, like pop-up notifications on my phone. And say someone sent me a message or someone commented or someone tagged me in a post and things like that. I just can't see them. So my account's like still there. I don't know. And here's all his icky book. Like the Romans. His whole collection of, yeah. The dictators. Christian nationalist movement. Oh, look at that. So yeah, very Nazi, very Nazi. So yeah, and I know 30% of you all voted Team Manchester before you knew about the Nazi stuff, so that's all right. You didn't know, but now you do. So, all right. And the other player, David Farrant.
Well, I've got my own website, my own forum, and my own blog. So terribly vain. I suppose it was just a matter of time before I ended up here with my own YouTube channel.
My name is David Farrant. I got sent to prison in 1974 for offences I did not commit. That's how I first became known as a vampire hunter.
Some public life, don't you?
I try to, yeah.
He sure looks a lot like Rumpelstiltskin from Happily Ever After.
Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this first introductory episode. Thank you for watching it, and I look forward to seeing you all here again in the future. And please feel free to leave comments down there.
So he died in 2019, so his channel's not being upkept. Matter of fact, there hasn't been anything posted on it in 8 years. But the last thing that was posted on it, and here, let's look at his rational wiki page too. It's only fair. A lot of this is copied and pasted the same way from the other one. David Farrant was a British occultist and author, best known for his connection to the nationally publicized Highgate vampire sighting in London, England during the 70s. He served prison sentences for desecrating the Highgate cemetery and mailing voodoo effigies to police. Not all heroes wear capes. The mailing of the voodoo thanks to the police, not desecrating the cemetery. Yeah. All right, so you get the Highgate vampire, which we've just recounted, right? So we're pretty familiar with that whole situation. Although he cheerfully posed for newspaper and TV cameras in the early 70s, holding a cross and stake while affirming his intentions to hunt down and destroy the Highgate vampire, Farrant apparently tempered his views of the affair in later years. He claimed not to believe in vampires and said that a dark figure or some kind of psychic entity was to blame for the Highgate hysteria. He didn't even like the word ghost, preferring instead to call them images replayed from the past. despite not believing in vampires, he was head of the Highgate Vampire Society. Or on at least one blog entry, he referred to himself as a witch, albeit in quotation marks. According to one UK tabloid, Farrant founded a number of occult or satanic circles, putting in particular effort to recruit young women, saying they are all over 18 and we don't initiate them if we believe they're just coming along for sex. Yeah, because it's gonna be the women who are just like, oh yeah, let's just do this for sex. Sure, that's how that usually goes down, right? That's how that happens. Prison. When London police found Farrant naked beside a plate of glowing embers in an abandoned house in 1973. Earlier, they said the fire was burning so hard they couldn't stamp it out and had to use an extinguisher. Now it's just a plate of, it was on foil, and now it's just a plate of embers? Inconsistent. He told them he was conducting a Wiccan ceremony to rid the place of hauntings. Hauled before a judge and jury, he was exonerated and let go with a warning. Police detectives had roughly interrogated a friend of his, so he mailed them voodoo dolls with threatening messages attached. Don't threaten the cops, just send them the voodoo dolls. Why do you gotta threaten them for? Is a ferret like a German ferret? Maybe in some way. Where was I? A few months later, he was back in court. This time suspected of grave desecration after police discovered a headless corpse propped in the front seat of a local resident's car. Could you imagine coming out to your car and finding a headless corpse in the driver's seat? Holy shit. Someone else came forward and admitted they put the body in the car as a joke, but thanks to some photos of vandalized graves found in his possession, Farrant was found guilty of damaging Highgate Cemetery and sending voodoo dolls to authorities. The judge sentenced him to more than 4 years in prison. 4 years in prison for sending some fucking voodoo dolls to the cops. I guess maybe with some threatening notes. I don't know. I've heard conflicting accounts of how and what those voodoo dolls entailed, but and for knocking over some gravestones and stuff. I don't know if that's what he was doing. Farrant admits to sending the voodoo dolls, but insists the vandalism and desecration was caused by Satanists, by those dirty, dirty Satanists. This is early satanic panic. That sounds like something I would do. Mail someone voodoo dolls, right? Yeah. That's why I'm definitely Team Farrant, because, well, the fact that Manchester's a Nazi kind of seals that deal for me. But Manchester's a Nazi and Farrant's ACAB. Not a hard pick for me, but I digress. Yeah. So he spent 4 years in prison there. Farrant's rival with Manchester may have... Okay, that's the same paragraph, but yeah, as you can see, I'll watch that probably in just a second. But Manchester responded on various blogs by creating oil paintings depicting Farrant as a demon. Manchester also accused Farrant of having narcissistic personality disorder and alleges he was deliberately peddling a line of defamatory anti-Bishop Manchester merchandise, such as t-shirts, drinking glass, and mugs. Yeah, with the Bishop Bonkers thing, because that's like his comic strip that he made about you. Now, he also had a feud with an Australian vampire enthusiast named Anthony Hogg, who has a blog, or had a blog. I don't think the blog's active anymore. Writes a blog critical of both Farrant and Manchester. He has accused Farrant of depicting him as a pig in the Adventures of Bishop Bonkers comics. As evidence, Hogg cites a cartoon character named Cousin Hoggy. So he made like comic book character people of his rivals, who is shown ascending to heaven after being butchered for a fictional Farrant Manchester Christmas dinner. Characters of Hogg also appear in Farrant's satirical YouTube videos. In one video, Hoggy travels to Australia, or from Australia to England, to question Farrant, who promptly shoots him dead. In another, the deceased Hoggy is discovered haunting Farrant, who orders him captured in a ghost trap and given to aliens for sexual experimentation. Is that wind? Oh wow, wind really picked up out there. Yeah. Yeah, he has a habit of declaring feuds with anybody. In 2012, Farrant sought to turn private estates in Yorkshire, reputed to be the site of Robin Hood's grave, which he claimed to have exorcised evil spirits years earlier, into a paranormal tourist attraction. Sketches posted in his blog revealed plans to remove the grave, guaranteed to stir up those restless spirits again, to make way for an IMAX theater, restaurant, and golf course on the property. So, yeah, that was Wait, those dolls aren't from you? You'll know my voodoo dolls when you get them. But let's go back to Farrant's video, or channel, because there was... Yeah, just walk around Highgate. Where's the video I was watching? It was the one with Hoggy and all that, so... It was like their Christmas, Halloween, or whatever. Let's see. Type in Highgate. It was Halloween. That's what it was. Yeah, here we go. This is what they were talking about.
Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode on my YouTube channel. I'm sorry that I don't usually celebrate Halloween.
Don't mail voodoo dolls to the cops, please. And if you do, don't tell them I told you to do so, because I told you not to. I just said David Farrant was based for doing so.
Oh, don't let that confuse you. No, it's just that I had a few people around the other night for a get-together, shall we say. One even coming from as far away as Australia, and another, well, from London. It worked out very well, but we took the opportunity of filming the occasion.
Oh.
I just wanted to share so serious. Watch your way. Who is it?
It's Gareth.
Oh, Gareth, come in. Oh, Gareth, I'm glad you turned up. Welcome to my house.
Where's the hog guy?
Party. This looks like...
I think he pretends to shoot him.
From London. We took the opportunity... You want me to say... Send me Daniels. Oh, well, I might as well go back where I was now. Gareth's not going to do that for me. Oh, it's a hard life being a white witch sometimes. Oh.
Yeah. Here we go. This is like... Bro's just gonna, like, open fire on him. Watch. Fire!
Magic man in politics. Yeah, it's a pity they never let me stand for Parliament. I think I would be another guest. Who is it?
It's a Southern Hoggy.
Hoggy? can't be.
Everybody's name showed up weird.
Hoggy, what are you doing here? How did you get here?
I come all the way from Oz on Qantas, mate.
Well, I'm afraid this is a private party and you're not really invited. You'll have to go back to Australia.
Trick or treat, Dave.
Anything to shut him up. Well, I know your tricks, Hoggy. So have a tangerine.
Bloody hell, Dave, you missed that one. Do another one, Dave.
Then will you go?
Just put it in the bucket, Dave.
Okay, goodbye, Hoggy.
Hey, wait a minute, Dave. That's the album down there, yeah? Let's have a good look at it, Dave.
Oh, no, you can't say this is private.
No, Dave, I'm going to have a look at it.
No, you
I
can't.
need to see it, Dave. I've come all the way from Oz, Dave. I've got to go. I've got to see this album, Dave.
Why don't you have a look at this? This is Halloween. Does that remind you of anybody? Friend of yours, maybe?
No, what I know, Dave. Why, who's it supposed to be?
I'm just trying to take your mind off the album. The album's strictly private. I'm afraid I can't show you that.
I'll tell you though, yeah, like look at Bugbot. He's got like, numbers behind him. Bugbot 6372, Ontger 7451. It's really weird.
That album, Dave. All right, Dave. Just show me the cover, Dave. Just show me the cover. That's all I want to see.
Back, Hoggy, I'm warning you. Get back.
Don't shoot, Dave.
He's gonna shoot him.
I warned you, Hoggy.
Don't shoot.
So this is just to be clear, yeah, this is also a thing that I don't want people to be doing. Do not make videos of yourself murdering your internet rivals, because that can probably come back to bite you if something actually did happen to them. But he's like all about making videos of him killing his rivals. Hold on, check out this Christmas video. Yeah, here it is.
Friend for dinner.
So watch. And that's like a sculpture of a decapitated Sean Manchester. So it's like his thing. He's like, yeah, I make stuff murdering people.
Is it very good pork, or why is it served in a claret glass? I don't know. Look, we've got some champagne here. Do you want some? Great.
So they got Bishop Manchester's head down there. Yeah. And this is Hogg's blog, talking about Farrant and Manchester. Who do you believe? Both Farrant and Patrick Sean Manchester investigated the Highgate vampire case. However, their accounts widely differ and both accuse the other of fakery. But who do you believe based on your own reading, watching of the case? Choose your options below. The options were David Farrant, Manchester, not sure, neither, or a bit of both. In response to a vote that has so far only swung between Farrant and neither, Manchester had the following to say. The name of the Hogs group, identical to the name of one of my own groups, paraphrased from newspaper headlines and articles that introduced me and the Highgate case to the world in a long time before Anthony Hogg was conceived, much less born in far-off Australia. Regrettably, Mr. Manchester failed to mention that the group's name was identical to the one of his because he had copied my group's name. The group name sharing its title with this blog and initially used in 2006 as a MSN space forum was indeed based on the newspaper headline. However, Mr. Manchester did not disclose the relevance of my age and location. His posts were accompanied by the following diatribe embedded into screen caps as he took to the poll, despite previously acknowledging he had blocked my account, thus indicating he should have no means to view it, bar alternative identities. Anthony Hogg has begun to run a poll on a Facebook group he used to post abuse and misinformation about me. Mr. Manchester gave no examples of this alleged abuse and misinformation. Anthony Hogg has begun to run a poll on Facebook groups he used to post abuse and misinformation about me, and it was opened a handful of hours ago, and apparently nobody believes my account, while 25% believe David Farrant's account regarding the Highgate vampire case, which is curious. Which is a curious view of the fact that Farrant didn't believe in the Highgate vampire. Why Mr. Farrant would have been obliged to believe in the existence of a vampire to investigate a case was not disclosed. Mr. Manchester continues, notwithstanding those who are members of Hogg's group are extremely hostile towards myself. Because you're a Nazi, we should be hostile towards Nazis. Stop being a Nazi, Manchester. Maybe we won't be hostile towards you and your Nazi, in your little Nazi uniform and your Nazi secret room. Mr. Manchester, a frequent visitor of the group, did not disclose how he determined visitors or from members, as only members may comment in the group. Furthermore, in his preamble above the poll, Mr. Manchester continues, Hogg described my name incorrectly. It is incorrectly described in all of my documents that are used for identity and not as Hogg would have it. The false addition claim comes from Farrant, without whom Hogg would flounder. It's kind of funny because Farrant and Hogg don't get along either. While the description of his name was derived from Farrant in a roundabout way, the divorce certificate included... Divorce certificate? I'm not getting into all that. Yeah, so we can't go to there because this. But I've submitted an appeal. Otherwise, I would go look at the polls and everything. So that's unfortunate, but... Oh, well. Yeah. So, that's, I guess that's about it. The folklore and history of the Highgate vampire, if there ever was such an entity at all, which I'd highly doubt, is pretty sordid. So I hope you enjoyed this little journey into the world of paranormal investigation. I'm going to continue this next week. We will be doing the actual Werewolf of London. So yeah, we are dragging the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren, out in front of the courts. Do you like this show being on Friday nights, or would it be better if I put it on a different night of the week? I cannot do it on Thursday, and I'd prefer not to do it on Saturday, the same day that I do Live from the Hive. So I am going to start trying to do this show once a week, in the evenings preferably. This I did specifically to coincide with the start at midnight in the UK, because, you know, the Highgate vampire was in the UK. Now, excuse me. Now, the Werewolf of London obviously is going to be in the same city. So we're starting off with vampires, moving on to werewolves. And I like doing these in the evenings. I'm not committed to Friday night. Usually Friday nights are pretty busy across YouTube. I did keep about around 15-ish people occupied and entertained for a little bit. So that's cool. And this was my first time without any kind of warning or anything. I just literally decided to do this stream yesterday. So, yeah. So let me know when if this slot works for you, and we will. For right now, I'm probably going to schedule it for next Friday for the next one for the Werewolf of London video. But we're going to spend some time in London. We're going to return to London. And we are going to parse words with Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous evangelical paranormal investigators and demonologists. And apparently psychics too, but... Anyway, appreciate y'all for sticking with me here. The video should redirect you to trivia night over there with Dr. Ben. It's going to be beer, buds, or bands, where you've got to Ben gives you a name of something, and you got to figure out whether it's the name of a band, the name of a type of beer, the name of a type of bud, a type of flower, marijuana. So that's what we're going to play tonight here in about half an hour, which gives me time to eat my garlicky chicken strips here. Yeah, I'm redirecting. So if you just stay here, it'll pop you on over, and you can hit the bell and make sure you don't miss the show, because it's going to be a fun night. We got, I believe, as far as I know, Maya Atkinson is joining us tonight. She said she was down. So, all right. Other than that, is there anything else I need to touch on? I don't think so. So I'm going to end it here. Please remember to be kind and take care. And we'll see you next time. Actually, I should say, be kind, take care, and we'll see you in the morning. And then I should also drop a link to Live from the Hive tomorrow. Because on Live from the Hive tomorrow, we're covering the Beast of Busco. We are covering the Sky Trumpets and the domestication of camels. So stick around for that. Should be a fun time. But yeah, hit this bell too. Yeah, there we go. Yay! Yay! Yeah, let me know if this is a good time slot. But yeah, please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.
Oh, there's a hawk! 快看，有一只鸟飞过来了。
一只鸟啊，鸟啊！
哦！
往我们这边跑了，哎，到水里了，到水里了！啊！跑，快跑！啊！快跑啊！
快跑！快跑！